the way, I just forgot to know how to even start being honest in my conversations with myself. That really weighed heavy. And so I lived for years, Mary, years where I was accomplished. I was good at so many things that I did, but I was doing them for the wrong reason, if you will. And at the heart of it, as you know, I got a lot of acknowledgement and so many, like applause and so on like that. I never felt I could own it because I said, I don't know if you know who I really am, though. The contrast now is I may not have a lot of answers that I thought I decisively had once upon a time, but I do have a far better awareness of what's going on here that I can at least start that conversation. And so a really important value for me is to say, as I engage the world that I'm in, can I present honesty as a very primary basis in saying, you may not agree with everything that I'm saying or doing or whatever, but at least I can give you that gift of honesty where you can determine based on what I'm offering if we're a good match or not, which is really important for me. Yeah.
That's self-honesty is very important.
I agree. I agree.
So how often do you get to see
Weekends usually. So I'm like the primary breadwinner, and so with my, like I say, my
So did your
ex.
wife married?
No, she has not. Like I said, like there was a lot of hurt that I extended in that connection as I had some growing up to do. Yeah, and like she's one of the most, how can I say, we've considered like reconnecting and going, but like when I'm speaking honestly now from where I'm at, there's there's lack of alignment in some key things, right? But she's like one of the most, second to my mom, I would say she's one of the most impacting individuals that I highly honor in my life, honestly.
It's good that you speak about it.
It's really important to me. It's not something I'm gonna like, I gotta say this. It's more like, no, like such people like her, I'm really grateful for, and no, it's...
And she won't take you back?
Oh, well, we have had that conversation, but like I was saying, in the honest conversations that we have now, because that's where I'm at, I don't want to promise anything that isn't true. It's just, it's not the right fit anymore. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't see any of this on your radar, did you?
It's such a wonderful conversation, though.
What makes it wonderful?
It's beautiful to be honest, and marriage is great because you might not have ever found out who you truly are.
Hello. You must be Mary.
Yes.
I'm your ride. How are ya?
Thank you so
May I carry your baby?
much. Yes, please.
Allow me to get her all locked in, and I'll make her feel at home. Hi. I see you there. Does she go backwards, by the way, or forwards? Backwards. Awesome. Hello, my dear. I see you. Mom's coming along the way here. No worries. We got you all set, my dear. Hello, my dear. I see you. Nice to meet you, Mary.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. My name is Biniam.
Oh, nice to meet you. What company are you guys with?
This is Uber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. They have this opportunity where the car companies can. Hi.
Oh,
What's your baby's name?
Sydney.
Sydney is a beautiful name.
So you're an Uber driver.
I am an Uber driver, indeed.
Wow.
So it's kind of nice that instead of using their own vehicles, they can just order a vehicle like this. Does that look secure enough, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. That should hold, right, Sydney? There you are, darling. I see you. Thanks for waiting for me, by the way. You were watching for me, I saw. So, Mary, it's almost the end of the week. For most people, that means they are finishing their work commitments. But you're a mom, and yours don't end.
I know.
Oh.
Thank you for reminding me.
I know. I was acknowledging how difficult it is being a mom, especially of a newborn or a young. Yes. How old is Sydney?
It is 14 months.
14 months old. So just over a year.
Yeah.
Is she your first?
Second.
Second. And how old is your first?
5.
5 years old, okay. So still very young.
Very young.
I
You have
imagine.
kids?
I have 3.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I have 3 kids. Mine are 13, 11, and 10.
Wow.
I know.
Are they boys?
I have one boy. He's in between his 2 sisters.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
It is, it is.
That's balance.
I'd like to say I did it on purpose, but I don't have that kind of power.
Yeah, no one does.
No. You know what's interesting, I find, I'm not sure if you've noticed this yet, but with our kids, there's no guarantee that they're anything like us.
Sure.
They come with their own pre-baked sort of personality, and oh, yes.
But do you believe that their personality has a fusion of the parents in there?
I think it's influenced by the parents, but I think like there's a lot of influence that can carry and impact the outcome. But for example, in relation to if an individual is an extrovert or an introvert, for example, I'm not sure that is in relation to anything genetical. I think that has something to do, like there are some siblings who are so diverse in the way that they are. So there may be some who are very vocal and exuberant, or maybe others who are very soft, or, you know, for example, my son, boys are typically like rambunctious, they're very, you know, physical. My son is not. He's the sensitive, soft one. And his baby sister is the one who's like the risk taker, for example, right?
Where did you get that from? I feel that the reflection of dad and mom.
You think there's some mixture there? Yeah.
I think so, like, the same way you said it.
Yeah.
I am my dad.
Yes.
My sister is my mom. Like, the way we approach things.
Sure.
Exactly the way my dad would.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
But then, you know, there's an interesting observation I've seen along the way in my experience where sometimes to say there's a quiet girl who is drawn to her extroverted dad, although they're not the same, but she's drawn to him. Maybe. Whereas there's also the opposite sometimes too, where like, yeah, that's the part where I wonder, oh my goodness, she's very vocal as well. I love it. I love it. I love so. Now, I'm observing that she has lighter skin. Like with me, I married a Caucasian, and usually what is anticipated is like my genes are more dominant usually, but I am black. Yeah, I'm Ethiopia. Yeah, I'm guessing you're from Nigeria. And so, but with my kids, they're very light skin tone. They do have curly hair, but they have very light skin. So that didn't carry on as predominantly.
Because you're light, you're not
Like
like black.
black.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think so.
And the thing is, I go to the tanning salon all the time.
Sorry.
I'm teasing.
No, because if you were black,
Yes.
you know, like the Sudanese black,
Then that way to carry over.
yeah, I think you would.
Or
really
the
dark.
Kenyans.
Yeah.
Kenyans are like they're really dark that way too. I know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So with Sydney, she seems like very light toned
Yeah.
in a way that you're not.
Yeah.
So does that imply that your partner is white?
Yeah.
Okay. And so his genes were more dominant. It seems like. Eh?
It's just definitely,
Yeah.
But my first is really like, I carried the gene in my first son.
Yes. Okay. And he's
This
darker.
one I almost had to do like
Say hello there.
It's just the shape of her hair.
Yes.
I think she got mine.
Yeah.
Her eyes and everything.
So, if you're open, I'd love to hear more of your story. More specifically, you were an immigrant once upon a time. I'm not sure if you're a citizen now, but especially in the context where most from your country that I know, there's this tendency that they are, they like what sticks with like, especially culturally, where they're like, hey, I understand this culture, I understand food, and so they are more inclined to stick together. But you married or were together with someone who was outside your culture, and some of those experiences that come from, I guess, an intercultural connection like that, the challenges, the evolutions. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that if you're open. Yes.
We actually went to school together.
Okay.
So, and I was in Ireland when we met, right?
Yeah.
So, we were students.
Yeah.
So, when you meet someone in Canada, it's different from when you meet someone in Europe.
Ah.
I feel like Europeans are more aware
Yeah.
of the culture
Yeah.
because of the slave trade stuff
Sure.
was very dominant in Europe, and that the route, the slave trade route.
Yeah.
And if you notice that the Americans too, they're very much aware of our black culture, right? But one thing I've noticed about Canadians,
Yeah.
not too much,
I
is
see.
always that
Open.
they're so
Open. Open, you mean, or?
they're open-minded, but
Yeah.
not as much as like a guy that came from Ireland or UK, where Africa, Nigerians just 6 hours a day.
Right.
Like I've met folks here that they don't even know Nigeria. Like they don't even know. They think Nigeria is a continent. Like everything they know is Mexico. Like
Right.
they're not well traveled.
Right.
Not really culturally
Sure.
competent.
Sure.
And stuff like that. In
Yeah.
as much as I know that Canada is a diverse country,
Of
but
course.
you find that the black population is almost like 2%
Of the.
In fact, it's this year and last year that
Yeah.
our population is beginning to expand due to immigration.
Uh-huh.
And if you notice, the best of us that comes to this country are just immigrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't really, I do have friends that what you're talking about.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That also married in like
Yep.
interracial.
Yeah.
They have Asian in they have Asian especially spiritual,
Yes. Yes. Of course.
where we are shouting Jesus and Islam.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have friends who deals with that, but my partner, his family also they have intermarried as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So it's something that it's natural.
Now.
If you come from that kind of a family, then you don't even he eats the same food I eat. He likes even my food. And
Yeah. Yeah. So that works out. Yeah. And do you ever get like some feedback from your countrymen saying, "Hey, why don't you stay within our?" Because I've had that response sometimes saying, "Hey, like
yeah,
prioritization of your culture." Yeah.
because he embraced the whole culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something he's, like he's learned how to speak Yoruba and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it also relate to the family.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't really dominate with this culture. Just based on his skin is why
Yeah.
you know his.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I do have friends that it's night and day.
Yeah.
How was yours then?
How's my story? Is that what you're asking? My story. Let me tell you. When I moved here, I was 8 years old. So for the most part, my growing up was here. Now, interestingly enough, when most immigrants move to North America, they usually end up in the bigger cities, in my observation, where there's more chance that there's other fellow countrymen that they can get together with, collaborate, create community, that kind of thing. And such a dynamic seems to add an element where, how can I say this? It seems to add an element where your acclimatization culturally is slower because you don't have to work as hard in understanding the culture or the traditions or that kind of thing, because you can always just meet with people who you understand better. So, in my family's context, however, we moved to small communities where there's no one else like us, and it's not that we did that on purpose per se, but what that translated to was we had to learn faster how to integrate, and I think that cemented that familiarity with this cultural setting far more. My dad asked me a question in my 20s that I didn't see coming, but he said to me, he said, would you be inclined to marry an Ethiopian or a Canadian? And I said, oh, I've never thought about it. But after some reflection, I said, even though I understand our culture in Ethiopia, I might be more inclined to marry a Canadian just because I share more values having grown up here for most of my life. And so that was my response at the time. Even since then, though, there's an element that I find I value in my connections, and especially in the romantic ones too, is not only like I shy away from that patriotism that says only us and our enclave, as opposed to, hey, we have some wonderful things here, but we're also in a place where there's such diversity and such beauty in that diversity that I don't want to miss out on. And so I really sort of not reject, but I stay away from those kind of movements that say, hey, just let's focus and prioritize us at the expense of saying, who are your neighbors? And yeah.
The Arabs have that mentality.
And
because they're trying to preserve that
their culture.
heritage.
And I know even in my, I get asked sometimes, like, how important is it for you to like maintain your traditions from your culture? And I say, I enjoy and I value them, but they're not my primary purpose, especially even with my kids. For me, I'm far more committed. I think here's the thing, I feel I have a full-time job just trying to be a decent person. I'm working on me, for starters, and that's a full-time job. I've got these 3 kids that I am responsible for molding in their character and helping them grow. And even before investing in the cultural side, I'm far more engaged already in saying, hey, what does it mean to be a person of integrity? What does it mean to be a person of character? Let's work on those things, because that's really important, especially in your reach to humans. And so where most people may highlight the traditional aspects of where they came from, I'm far more attuned, if you'll, married to what does it mean to be able to relate to your fellow human beings while you're trying to be part of this community in whichever context. What does it mean to learn how to communicate? What does it mean to learn how to give benefit, like just these beautiful things that make this working community, while acknowledging just the past that we all came from. That for me is more second tier, if you will.
So when did you meet your wife?
In church of all places.
Oh, where?
What,
What church?
not here in the city. This is in BC. I'm not. Oh, where are you? Where in BC were you?
Surrey.
I was in Camp.
Colorado.
Okay, I was in Kamloops, just up the street. Yeah. It's a hot place. It's dry. It's lovely. That's where my home base is. I moved out here some time back, and I love it here, though.
Yeah, here is more affordable.
Yeah, it's affordable.
What church do you now attend here?
I don't anymore.
Why?
Some transitions have happened for me. I'm not married anymore either.
Yeah.
I'm divorced. But my ex and I, we have a really good partnership in raising our kids. I think in my story,
Yeah.
I came to the point where after decades of really trying to hone in and faithfully grow in my walk, there were some things I was just saying, I'm not seeing that transition that I've been striving for. And I've been, in the church context, I'm not sure if you can relate to this, there's a certain ethos or environment where I didn't feel safe to actually express and say, I'm not experiencing what we're promising for those who are here. You know, this freedom, this liberation from the sins that we're struggling with, ongoing, that kind of thing. And I've grown for a lifetime with strong sense of hypocrisy personally, that I haven't felt free to be able to say and be upfront with, because in that context, culture in the church, there is that, and so I just got, yeah, and so I'm just in a place where I say, I've had to learn the hard way, and this is part of the reason why I'm not married anymore. There's been breaches of trust on my part with people who are very dear to me. I've burned a lot of people, I've hurt a lot of people that way, because of just trying to be something that I didn't feel I ever was. And I'd rather commit to an honest engagement now. And so I like having this conversation from a different vantage point that doesn't have expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's part of my story where at this point now, like I say,
So are you now you're not practicing anything?
I'm not practicing anything.
But do you feel happier that way? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's what gives you peace of mind. There's some people
Yeah.
keep searching until they find something.
Of course.
And some people don't, but
Yeah.
they feel balanced.
Yeah, and I think in my experience, there's what I'm really pursuing is that. So one of the themes I've come to really value internally for me is the thing I had been seeking for a long time, but I had struggle experiencing. That was, what does this idea of integrity look like, where I can actually be true to the values I have on the inside externally? How can I actually see those align in a way that I can be open in talking about? And so that's something I've been pursuing for me personally in such a way where I said, I'd rather not pretend anymore. And so along those lines, I feel that zone that you're describing where now the way I engage the world, like for example, it started off maybe 8 years ago where I said to myself, looking at myself in the mirror, I don't know if I know who I really am while I strive to try and fulfill what others expect of me. From my religious background, my familial, like so many things, but along the way, I just forgot to know how to even start being honest in my conversations with myself. That really weighed heavy, and so I lived for years, Mary, years where I was accomplished. I was good at so many things that I did, but I was doing them for the wrong reason, if you will. And at the heart of it, as you know, I got a lot of acknowledgement and so many, like applause and so on. Like that. I never felt I could own it because I said, I don't know if you know who I really am, though. The contrast now is, I may not have a lot of answers that I thought I decisively had once upon a time, but I do have a far better awareness of what's going on here that I can at least start that conversation. And so a really important value for me is to say, as I engage the world that I'm in, can I present honesty as a very primary basis in saying, you may not agree with everything that I'm saying or doing or whatever, but at least I can give you that gift of honesty where you can determine, based on what I'm offering, if we're a good match or not, which is really important for me. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Weekends usually. So I'm like the primary breadwinner, and so with my, like I say, my
So did your
ex.
ex-wife remarry?
No, she has not. Like I said, like there was a lot of hurt that I extended in that connection as I had some growing up to do. Yeah, and like she's one of the most. How can I say? We've considered like reconnecting and going, but like when I'm speaking honestly now from where I'm at, there's there's lack of alignment in some key things, right? But she's like one of the most, second to my mom, I would say she's one of the most impacting individuals that I highly honor in my life, honestly.
It's good that you speak about her.
It's really important for me. It's not something I'm gonna like, I gotta say this. It's more like, no, like such people like her, I'm really grateful for, and no, it's,
And she will take
well, we have had that conversation, but like I was saying, in the honest conversations that we have now, because that's where I'm at, I don't want to promise anything that isn't true. It's just, it's not the right fit anymore. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't see any of this on your radar, did you?
It's such a wonderful conversation.
What makes it wonderful?
Beautiful to be honest. Marriage is great because you might not have ever found out who you ever not situation. It's just like my brother used to be married to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wasn't married to her, he wouldn't have realized what he has realized about himself now. So sometimes marriage might be the way to get to your truth, right? It might be the channel.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
To discover something more
Well, even as you say that, it makes me reflect about how if we had the power to choose the lessons we learn, we would choose no lessons.
I know.
And yet the lessons,
Behind.
oh my goodness. But it seems like life hands us on its own schedule, not on ours, these opportunities where we have to face these things that are overwhelming. But in the midst of having to go through them because it's not on our schedule, there's some evolution that happens over time. And I think about, there's some things that I still like, oh, I'm sad about this, and a huge part is like how I've also hurt people unintentionally, but it was part of the outcome as well, including my kids, for like my ex. But one of the things that made me realize when I first started my journey as a dad, I think at that time my fear, my driving impulse in my parenting was, how do I not screw my kids up? How do I like have my act in such a line, like my ducks lined up, that I'm presenting competence, because I don't want to mess them up. Whereas now when I look back on that, I say that wasn't fair.
The reality of what life is all about.
Nor was it even something I could offer, because at the very heart of it, me, like the rest of humanity, to have that expectation is unreasonable. It's not honest. And if I can be realistic about what I'm working with, I've come to a different conclusion now where I feel, as a result of all I've gone through, one of the biggest gifts I can give to my kids, in addition to honoring their mom, esteeming her, is also presenting a model of what could be and how we can be gracious with the messiness, how we can be kinder in the midst of our the way that we don't show up as we ought to be.
Perfections.
Yeah, and I mean we're living in a context worldwide where there are demands that are unreasonable. So what does it look like to actually take stock of who we are at the present moment and progress? For sure, we all, it's highly encouraged to be a better version of ourselves, but from the starting place that is reasonable, that says I'm not going to expect this level of perfection or this level of like
you won't be able to keep up.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I value that insight, and I want to do that more intentionally now as a result. That's really important for me.
So what did you do for work?
Before Uber, or
Oh, you do Uber full time?
I'm going to be again.
Oh,
So currently I just finished my job before I came pick you up. I manage a warehouse
I see.
in the south here.
I see.
Now before that I was driving Uber full time, which I loved. I had such a great experience, and I shared my experiences online. Lots of people were really encouraged. I shared my experiences as an Uber driver with my viewers online. It was wonderful. It helped me have beautiful conversations like this, worthwhile having. So I'm going to do that again. I think because of the freedom and honesty that I'm at personally, there's a sense of freedom I experience to talk about my story. To be able to say, hey, for anyone who's interested, who feels like they're where I once was at, here's where I've evolved to. Here's why this is meaningful for me. Here's how I got here. Here's how I would encourage you to maybe start your journey of being true to yourself. Here's how I would encourage you to start asking the questions that need to be asked. Here's how I can propose some ideas that have been helpful for me, if you will.
So what have been the approaches that you've taken to get that peace of mind? Like, are you doing yoga? Is there any kind of spiritual interventions that have helped you so far?
Ask the question again, if you would, in a different way.
Like, is there any other, like, kind of things that you've done to help you discover where you are and things that
The catalyst for me,
what?
the catalyst
Yeah.
for that began this pathway for me was hitting a very low place in my life, like a really low place in the midst of, and
So
what,
did you go for therapy or?
no,
Like, I wanna know what
how, yes, so
that helped you.
definitely there's a framework of values that I grew up with in my faith. What's right, what's wrong. So a lot of that I still subscribe to. But that alignment inside and outside was really critical that's something I hadn't lived with for a long time. And being aware of that discord where I could have kept on going on that present path of dishonesty, but what I realized was to do that, I'm going to live a lifetime and come at the end of my lifetime, Mary, where my kids, if they were ever to find the truth, would say, we never got the real version of dad, and so everything is nothing, basically, right? I'd go through the world and I would never be able to enjoy it the way it ought to be enjoyed. I would, absolutely. It's almost like seeing this world in black and white instead of the color that could be. It's like eating food that doesn't have any taste to it. That's not life for me. And so that discord, I wanted to bring alignment, and the only way I knew how was to press that reset button in a very painful way. And the cost for me was everything. I knew that this was going to be so momentous, but I desired so greatly to have this alignment, realignment. And it's not that I was promised it, but it was more like I desired and yearned for it. And the only way I could start that process was saying, can I start off by this act of being honest with myself first, even at the expense that the world may want nothing to do with me? At least I can see myself in the mirror. It was that place that that was that low point. I had this great desire that someone would know the real Binyam, messy and all, and at least then I could feel something.
And you did this without the help of a therapist?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. Like in my previous work, here, let me give you a bit of background as well too. I mean, I've had some training in counseling as well
Oh,
too.
I see. Yeah, now you're talking.
Yes.
Because you have to have something.
Awareness. I've read lots of books. There's an understanding to be certain. Yes. I've also been in leading capacities. So, like one of my previous careers, which I trained after many years of school, was I was a pastor of a church as well too. There's another component. So there's an understanding there of just places that led people and help. And there's so much that I still love, and my heart was in the right place for why I was doing what I was doing. But there's a lot of this awareness that I think I've grown over years to say, here's what I'm being aware of. It's hard to make change if you don't know what to point at. And so knowing a lot of these elements, I'm like, I see what has to be in front of me, basically. I'd made attempts before, but they'd all fallen short, and this is the kind where, now, I'd also been part of a 12-step group too. 12-step group that was really helpful in helping me understand a lot of these patterns that I've done. So that was really instrumental to be certain. So I guess that's another form of therapy. But all that to say, after all this, you eventually get enough information of what's the helpful way to go forward, and then there's nothing more to do than actually act on what you know. I could have all this information, but if I don't actually apply it to myself, it's useless. So it's a courageous thing. It's a very scary, courageous thing to step into that practical zone and saying, okay, roll up.
Especially when you've been held at a very high level of, one thing about Christian
Yeah.
Bible, that the Bible says is that to whom much is given, much is required, right? And when you've actually grown in the level of counseling, leadership, and a Christian community, even the slightest of sin is held as a very high. If a normal
Sure.
person should mess up,
Yeah. Yeah.
prejudice is not as strong as if someone like your caliber.
Yeah.
And I think that's the impact.
And the impact that I had was huge. So you can imagine now, like so many people who, I mean, I was effective. I was gifted in what I did. And that's why I say I counted the cost. And there are many who have disillusion now because of my pathway. You know what I'm saying? So that's not light for me. The cost of my ex-wife, for example. There's just, I take an accounting of that. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And even as I take an accounting of all that, one of the ways I say it is, there's some lessons I don't want to learn twice. This is one of them. And so that's why, for me, I value transparency. I value honesty now. Late to the game, yes, but but still, that's why I lock it in, and why I'm very vocal and open about sharing where I've been, because I'd like to be a resource for others who may be trying to figure that out. Not in a way that says, here's where you should be, more like, here's my experience along the way, and if I can help you with some insights that I've come to experience, consider these, apply them for yourself. You have to do the work. But I'm happy to be. Absolutely, yeah. So that's why this is important for me.
So are you planning to remarry or what's
I'm open to it, but this time around, I've gotten to know myself a lot better, and I'm operating from a different premise than I was before. Before I was on schedules that other people had set for me that I didn't like. Okay, I feel compelled. Now it's more like, here's where I'm at, and here's what I want to advocate for, and so on. So I'm open, but I'm also very cautious because, again, when
you beat yourself down so hard, you have to be a good person.
first thing, thank you, dear. Yeah, so along those lines, it's important for me now to, like, I feel better equipped to have the conversation that needs to be had, and that would be really helpful.
The more you talk about it, the
Yes.
more your spirit becomes lighter.
Left to your right.
The more your spirit becomes lighter,
Yeah.
the more you offload those emotions.
Mary, part of the reason I love these conversations is never choreographed for me, and I never know what's on the agenda. But I'm going to make a request to you. Before I make the request, culturally in this country, like, it's not an easy thing for people to say no, and they feel really conscientious about it. They don't want to hurt people's feelings, etc., etc. I want you to feel free if the answer is no, for you to express that, because I also want to honor that too. I would love to be able to take this conversation that we had. Like I say, sometimes I don't know what's on the radar, but this is one of the conversations I would love to share with my followers online, just to be able to say. But that means that the video, and this is the part where it's a big ask, because some people really value their privacy. Video, image, and voice, like, that would go on the internet, and I'm not sure if that's something you'd be concerned about. You're okay with that? I'd be happy to be able to share our time. And the questions you're asking too is more like confession hour with Binyam on my side. But
That's fine.
I appreciate that just because. Okay. I've been through well. Thank you for that.
As long as it's
That's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do, just because, again,
what's your Instagram?
it's my name. Binyam, Binyam. Here, I'll give you my card. So it has my handle on the back there. My website isn't quite up and running yet, but otherwise, everything out there, you'll be able to. So I'll probably just share little snippets on Instagram. The primary one that I utilize is YouTube. It's the same handle as well there too. Yeah. I so appreciated our time though. This has been so sweet. Whenever.
How many followers do you have?
On which platform?
Your biggest platform.
That would be TikTok. So now when I have, I think maybe 55,000
Oh wow.
on TikTok. But now I'm just kind of reshifting my focus to YouTube primarily, because my plan as I come back to drive full time with Uber is to build up that platform where that can be monetized, and I can keep on doing this in a more targeted, specific way. That hopefully can.
Using two stones to kill. No, using one stone to kill
Two birds? That poor bird, right? The front door up here?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Would you like help with Sydney inside, by the way? I am happy to help you that way. I am more than happy to assist. Thank you.
No worries.
It was my pleasure. Let me grab the door there for you. Oh, she's sleeping. The conversation wore her out. That's so funny. You are so sure I can't take that inside
No,
for you?
that's fine. Just here.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. All right then. Take care.
Goodbye,
Take
my
care.
dear.
Bye.